What's up, everyone? It is the MLB Strategy Show, the Osmo.com MLB Strategy Show. It is a Monday, so I'm joined by Adam Scher. Adam, how you doing? How was the weekend?
Doing good. Weekend was good, not DFS wise, but relaxing at least. So that was nice. But hopefully, some good DFS coming up before football season starts. How was your weekend?
Yeah, good. Good. Not on the DFS front, but been running into a bit of a cold streak, as we talked about. I think we're both in that same boat. So, just looking forward to the seven gamer. I feel like it's kind of an ugly slate, I think, which is a good thing, because it's going to be ugly for everyone. So,
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Your favorite pitcher on the slate? I'm sure we'll talk at length about him, about lineup construction. Um, but yeah, man, it's I think it's gonna be good. Football starts in 2 weeks. Fun time of year. Hockey and NBA just around the corner as well, and of course we've got you covered with all the content on the site for NBA. You'll be doing a bunch of NBA. I'll be doing NHL, and of course you're not going to be shorted on NFL content, free and premium. So um, gonna be fun, man. A couple more weeks of doing this, and then we'll be talking about all our football binks on Monday morning instead of our baseball losses.
Yeah. So give it like what, a month and a half, and we'll be saying how much we miss baseball and
Yeah,
hate football, and yeah,
man, baseball is ezy. It takes you like an hour to build lineups. It's you know who's
yeah.
playing.
You
Don't deal
you
with
just don't
injuries.
play the
Yeah,
chalk because it's baseball and you win.
yeah. Lately, if you're playing baseball though, and you're playing the chalk, you're doing okay. As
Yeah.
as we'll talk about here with our lineup study segment, I'm just going to alert the channel that we're going live. There we go. Um, First, I want to talk about Yahoo. We are, of course, presented by Yahoo. I've got the football contests up there. I always like taking a look at these. There is way more than enough room for you guys to get in this $25 NFL $1 million baller. This goes live, what is that, September 8th. The normal main slate lock. This is going to be a tournament you want to enter in. Of course, they've got baseball contests as well. $15, $1,500 to first. Lower entry fees than what you're going to see, or I'm sorry, lower management fees than what you're going to see elsewhere. Just over 10% on the $3. $600 to first. Nice flat payout. And of course, you don't have to compete against all these other sharks that we're going to talk about in just a second. But make sure you're building up your Yahoo bankroll so you can get in this management fee free tournament for NFL, because it's going to be massive. It is 100K to first. And if you don't get first, if you get a top five, you're going to win 10K. And the max investment for that tournament is just $250. So super exciting. Man, I just can't wait for, let's see, what do we got? 10 days until NFL starts. I guess 12 or 13 until this main slate locks. So no excuse not to get in one of the best tournaments in the industry. All right, lineup study from last night. Yesterday's main slate. I've got the $10 pulled up here. Giant Squid took it down. The top five entries and 7 out of the top 8 were 150 max guys. So it was a good day for the 150 max people. You see some familiar names: Giant Squid, Mr. Good Seats, Chipotle Addict, Sean Zan. So I think it was overall a pretty good day for the pros. It was a good day for 5-man stacks. And we were talking about, speaking of the chalk going off, I mean, Cleveland got there very, very late. Ended up putting up 8 or 9 runs. And Franmil Reyes, I think he was one of the chalkiest players in the slate. He double-donged late. So looking at Giant Squid's lineup, didn't do anything crazy here. We were just talking about he hit the absolute nuts on his one-offs. So 5-man Indians, which a lot of people had. You had the good parts. Plawecki kind of needed that catcher dong, and 21 DK points had Franmil Reyes. His one-offs were O'Hearn, Newman, and Arenado combining for, 68, 92 points. So couldn't have had a better trio for his 5-man naked stack. Anything else interesting you're seeing here, Adam?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Just if you look at, for one, he was underweight on Cleveland overall. They were his 8th highest owned 5-man stack. So It's not like he was going overweight on them. But I think that looking at the one-offs in his lineup, it just reinforces how if you're going to stack popular teams, for one, you want to look at the ownership of your lineup as a whole. Like, you can stack the Indians as long as you're running one-offs out there that are all 3% owned. You're still going to be unique. But on top of that, it just kind of reinforces how good your lineup has to be to win a tournament if you're stacking the highest owned team. Indian stacks are drawing dead because he adds Arenado, Newman, and O'Hearn. Whereas if you prioritize lower owned teams, you don't have to have the absolute nuts with it to win. You just need those popular teams not to do as well. So it kind of just, I think, looking at his lineup reinforces that it's easier to win tournaments by not having the most popular team.
Yeah, certainly much easier, but you just got to get those stacks right. And it's baseball. You see crazy things happen. So last night, the chalk got there. I'm sure that's not going to happen all the time, even though it feels like it's been happening lately. So if you're more contrarian player by nature, contrarian tournament player, you're probably a bit frustrated lately, but that's variance. It's going to happen for a few days at a time. And I don't know. I'm not going to be all of a sudden jamming in the chalk whenever I can. I was trying to pull up the FanDuel Live Final. We don't have it in lineup study. I know Alex got a top 10 finish in there. E. Hafner won it, but just wanted to take a quick look. Because it's FanDuel, you can't really get an in-depth look at what everybody played because they don't allow their data to be shared. But I know Alex got ninth. Me and Chris Randone talked a little bit about that yesterday. I think a Pirates stack ended up winning. Or no, it was Twins Cardinals stack. Maybe E. Hafner won it with. Do you remember the lineup, Adam?
No, I didn't see it. Yeah. I didn't even realize till just now that Alex got top 10.
Yeah, neither did I. I saw I was tracking it a little bit, and I was looking to see, if he had a chance. And he had a few lineups probably in the top 50, but his PMR was a lot lower than everyone else, even though the game started all at the same time. They played it like a turbo slate. So good job by Alex. Top 10 finish. Not quite exactly what he envisioned, I'm sure, but it's so tough to win those things. And I think E. Hafner won it with only a lineup or two. I can't remember how many he actually had, but impressive showing for him. One of the better live final players. I think he's won a few of those in his
he's great.
Career. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really nice guy too. So always happy to see him win.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's get into the 7-game slate. This one should go pretty quick, as it usually does with Adam and myself. We've got the Atlanta-Colorado game that's not going to be on the slate. That's going to be a showdown. If you want to talk about this game, Premium Slack is probably your best bet. Promo code MLB Strategy gets you 50% off your first month of any Awesemo Plus package, including Fantasy Cruncher. So now would be a good time to have Fantasy Cruncher with a lot of these big MME tournaments for NFL. You can use it for the Yahoo tournament as well. Josh just sent me the FanDuel link. Let's take a quick look at this. It was E. Hafner, and then I didn't recognize a lot of other names here, but yeah, you see Awesemo there. Just a quick 20K, finishing in 10th, it looks like. The rest of I think he spread it around a ton in this tournament. Had Pittsburgh in his top lineup, but Pablo Reyes, even though Pittsburgh scored 14 runs, he found the 0 in there, so got pretty unlucky with the Pittsburgh stack. Ozuna wasn't great, 9.7 FanDuel points, but gave himself a chance. E. Hafner's lineup that ultimately won him about 500K. Nelson Cruz, I think, he had Jake Cave in here. I remember seeing that. Sano donged, Goldschmidt donged. He had Franmil Reyes. He donged as well. Bader, for the second year in a row, made a big difference in the live final. Home run in the utility spot. So, man, did a really good job. Let's see, what did he win it by? Cleared it by 8 points, so won it pretty convincingly. So congrats to E. Hafner, congrats to Alex, and everyone else that had an entry. All right, not going to talk about Atlanta, Colorado. Again, get to Premium Slack if you want to chat with everyone else that's going to be playing that. We'll start with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. We've got Joe Musgrove going up against Jason Vargas. Musgrove at 6K on DraftKings, Vargas at 7,900. 4.3 implied total here for Pittsburgh, lower than what it was last night when me and Chris were looking at this. 4.8 for Philadelphia. Musgrove forever priced in this low tier. I'm guessing he's going to be a guy we have interest in. What are your thoughts on Musgrove against Philadelphia?
Yeah, he really stands out on the slate, especially on DraftKings, because there's just not much in the way of cheap pitching. So and stars and scrubs pitching normally works pretty well. So not much in the way of cheap pitching, not much in the way of mid-range pitching. So I think that you're naturally going to see a lot of ownership go to Musgrove. It's a decent spot. The Phillies aren't great, but it is a really scary park for him. Throws a lot of strikes, gives up some power. Bryce Harper, I think, is expected to be back from the paternity list. So a pretty decent Philadelphia lineup. I think Musgrove is a good play at 6K on DraftKings. Like, I'm going to get there a lot, but he's also projected for 30% ownership right now. And to me, that makes Philadelphia really appealing because Musgrove's not a great pitcher anyway. It's a favorable hitter's park, and then you're getting all the leverage that comes with it.
Yeah, I was looking at Philadelphia last night. I mean, Harper being in the lineup would be a pretty big boost. He's up to 5,200 hitting as well as he has, for an extended time this season, and coming back from the paternity list. So you don't have to worry about like a re-injury any more than you would have to with any other player. But I like Philadelphia. You like Harper, Hoskins if he's going to start to hit a little bit better. Homered the other day. Dickerson at 4,700, and then you've got some secondary pieces. Cesar Hernandez. I've noticed Adam Hazley projects pretty well as a value on DraftKings when he's in the lineup for Philadelphia, so he might be a guy I get to. I could certainly see myself getting to a Philadelphia stack because of the added leverage, like you mentioned, Adam. Vargas, 7,900, going up against Pittsburgh. Is he a cross-off for you here?
Yeah, not really interested there. The caveat being that there's not much good pitching on this slate, so you could certainly get him in some tournament lineups, and that's fine, but not a priority for me. He's not cheap. The Pirates don't strike out a lot. It's a positive park shift, and I still don't know how Vargas consistently prevents runs. None of it makes sense to me, and I'm pretty stubborn, so I'm going to just keep banging my head against that wall and not rostering Vargas probably.
I think that's where I'm going to be at as well. Musgrove, $33 on Yahoo. Some of these Pirates are pretty cheap on Yahoo as well. Yesterday's hero, Kevin Newman, $12 leading off. Brian Reynolds at 17, Bell 13, Ozuna 12. So some pretty nice value on Pittsburgh against Philly. Just kind of a low implied total here for Pittsburgh. I think I'm much more likely to get to the Philly stack, all things considered. Anything else on this game? Any Pirates hitters you want to mention?
Nothing that specifically stands out. I think it's a really good spot for Starling Marte, but he's 5,600 on DraftKings, so that takes away a lot of appeal there. On Yahoo, he's 21, so he's still the most expensive guy in the lineup.
Yep. I mean, not a game I'm super excited about, especially on the Pittsburgh side. And then Vargas, can't really get excited about him for 7,900. Let's go to St. Louis and Milwaukee. Right now looks like, Milwaukee has a retractable roof. I'm seeing some weather issues on the site I'm looking at right now, but they could just close the roof in Milwaukee. So no weather issues, might be a little bit more favorable to pitching here if they do indeed close the roof, because it's going to be over 75 degrees and humid in Milwaukee. So just keep an eye out for that. Maybe the totals jump around a half run or so. We've got Adam Wainwright going up against Gio Gonzalez. Wainwright, and this will be a theme for today, at least on DraftKings, overpriced in a big way at 9,600, going up against a team with a 5.1 implied total. Gio Gonzalez, a little bit more reasonable, but still 8,200, going up against a bunch of righties for St. Louis, 4.5 implied total for them. I mean, are these guys you're going to get to with any regularity?
I think that on Yahoo, Wainwright's $31 price tag is pretty appealing. He's $2 less expensive than Joe Musgrove there. And it's not a good matchup, but there's only so many pitchers on the slate, and Wainwright's price tag is really appealing. On DraftKings, I don't see getting them at 9,600, and I think I'd rather be looking to left-handed power from Milwaukee. So it's a spot where if you're taking advantage of playing multiple sites, you can kind of get your money down on all parts of this game, but just use the pricing on the sites to get favorable positions on everyone.
Yeah, some favorable pricing on Yahoo. You mentioned Wainwright, 31. Yelich up at 23, but you still got Moustakas, Thames, Grandal, Kane, all guys that I think are in play here. So I think a Yahoo stack on for Milwaukee and Wainwright is more in play. You got pretty expensive pricing for Yelich and Keston Hiura, and then Thames up at 5K all of a sudden. Braun righty at 4,900. It's pretty difficult to get to Milwaukee. Probably more of an anti-optimizer play. It'll be interesting to see where they come in on the top stack tool once we get it. What about Gio against these Cardinals bats? Cardinals all of a sudden really expensive when they've been like one of the cheap value teams that I've been going to for the past week or so. Now they're way priced up, probably because of a little bit of a park shift. But Ozuna at 5,300, Edman, Goldschmidt 47 and 4,600. Do you like the Cardinals here at all against Gio?
Somewhat. Gio's not terrible, but most of the St. Louis lineup will have the platoon advantage. Probably the only lefty in there will be Matt Carpenter. And Gio's not anything special. He's just kind of an average pitcher. Against righties so far this year, he's allowed a 359 expected WOBA, 192 expected ISO, so giving up some production there. And then you get right-handed bats like Goldschmidt, Ozuna, DeJong, Molina that all can do some damage. Molina is still affordable, so is DeJong. Goldschmidt, I think, is underpriced as well. Really the only guy that is expensive is Ozuna, and that's justifiable too. So I do like the Cardinals. I don't know if it'll be full stacks so much as mini stacks or one-offs, but I expect Goldschmidt to be one of the higher owned first basemen. I think Molina's a good value at catcher, and I think DeJong's a pretty good shortstop option.
All right. I like the call. I don't think I'm going to get to a lot of pitching here. So maybe some of these Cardinals, I'll try to get to Ozuna if I'm stacking up the Cardinals. I like paying up for some of these expensive guys when I can. I think we have the wrong price for Ozuna, or someone has the wrong price. I'm looking at two different prices, 53 and 5,500 for Ozuna. So, he's expensive nonetheless. But let's move it on to your favorite game of the day, the Cincinnati Reds and the Miami Marlins. We have $11,200 Sonny Gray going up against Pablo Lopez for $7,400, making his long-awaited return off the IL. Hasn't pitched in an MLB game since early June, I believe. Gray, highest K percentage on the slate by a good margin. Talk about this spot, and you don't necessarily win the bet, right? Because it's not an 8-game slate.
I do not win the bet because it's not an 8-game slate.
Oh my gosh.
For the second time, Sonny Gray is over 10K on not an 8-game slate. And then his next start, I think, is going to be on a doubleheader day. So chances are he'll throw like the first game, and that won't count either. My friend Justin's running really good on this one. But it's obviously a great spot. He's the best pitcher on the slate, and it's not really close. Highest strikeout percentage, highest ground ball percentage, pitching in a great park, facing a terrible Miami team. Probably will give up 14 runs for that reason, but there's no reason not to like Sonny Gray here. He's really, really expensive. That's like the only issue, but the problem is, where do you go to where you get anything close to the same upside? You can make an argument for Dustin May against the Padres at a cheaper price tag, but it's not like he's a high strikeout pitcher. Gray has the highest strikeout percentage by a wide margin on this slate. So my plan will still be to get a lot of Sonny Gray and then just kind of mix and match cheaper pitchers and hope that I hit on a couple.
Yeah, I think there are a couple. We talked about Musgrove. That'll be a popular pairing. I mean, I'm not that worried about popular pairings tonight. You've got the clear best option here. So as I always say with these guys, when they have good matchups, he's going to face a bunch of righties. It's Miami. It's a great park to pitch in. Maybe the roof might even be closed here. Some chance of precipitation in Miami. So might even be better hitting conditions than 85 degrees and humid. He's 11-2. He's worth every dollar of it. The question is, first of all, do I need to pay up for pitching? Like, is there an expensive stack? And I'm not seeing an expensive stack that I won't be able to get in without Gray. Haven't started crunching yet, but right. You look at the Yankees, you look at I don't even know, the Dodgers aren't that expensive on DraftKings. So I think I'm going to get to a ton of Gray. I'm hoping he's my highest exposed pitcher tonight. If he's not, it's probably one of the cheap guys, but going to be at least around the field on Sunny tonight because this is not a Coors slate. There's not like a Houston smash spot or, Dodgers with a 6 implied total where you're going to have to worry about spending up for too many bats. So love Gray tonight. Hopefully he smashes so you can win your bet in the next couple weeks because DK is trolling you in a pretty big way right now. What about Pablo Lopez? 7,400 here coming off the IL in his last 2 minor league starts. I believe he threw 65 and 70 pitches. Wasn't great in those. I think he had 1 solid start, 6 innings, 5 strikeouts or something along those lines. But pitching in this park, low implied total here for Cincinnati. Alex has him at 4.5. His rankings and projections are out at this point. Is he a guy you think you're going to get to? Say he's going to throw 80, 85 pitches?
Yeah, I like Lopez here. His salary is reasonable. The park's really good. It's not the best matchup in the world against the Reds, but it's not terrible either. No Joey Votto does, help the strikeouts a bit. But Lopez, if you look at the pitching on the slate, Sonny Gray has the highest strikeout percentage at 29.2%. Tommy Malone's at 27.3%, but he's facing the Yankees, so you can kind of write him off. And then you get Pablo Lopez at 23.3%. So the third highest strikeout percentage out of all pitchers on the slate, 4.09 Sierra, 3.97 xFIP. He's been pretty solid in that regard, a good 5.7% walk percentage. He's a pretty decent pitcher in a good park on a slate where there's not much decent pitching. And especially on DraftKings, most of the decent pitchers are priced $1,500 to $2,000 higher than they normally would be. So he, stands out even more. So yeah, I do think I'll get to Lopez.
Yeah, I was talking about it with Chris yesterday. We were just taking a preliminary look at things. And I think just because of the total, just because a lot of pitchers being priced up, and then we were hoping we wouldn't see heavy ownership on Pablo Lopez, and he's around 20% right now. I think that's okay. He's not like the clear chalk option. There are 2-3 pitchers right now that are cheaper than him that are that have higher ownership projections on DK. So probably going to be a DK only play for me because his upside is a little bit limited. But it's not like you're looking at a bunch of spectacular options in this range, and he's 7,400, and I think he can go close to a full game if 85 pitches is about the number that they cut him off on. So not looking at a lot of Reds bats here. You do get a favorable price on Suarez at 3,900, Aquino up to 4,700, but any bats you're looking at in this game on either side?
I think Josh Van Meter is a good value, especially DraftKings. He's second base outfield eligible, so there's a lot of spots that you can get him in your lineup. He's cheap, has the platoon advantage. The Reds are really inexpensive, which is nice, and Lopez is getting some ownership. And while Lopez is good, you do have an absolute trash bullpen behind him, so there is a lot of upside if they can get to Lopez early. But I don't think that they're a really high probability stack. It's just more like they're a team where I could see getting there if I decide that I'm going with Sonny Gray and Dustin May, and I only have 3,700 per position. I think the Reds are one of the teams that have a reasonably high ceiling for their price tags.
Yeah, that's a good call. They're just a cheap stack that might get thrown in there and filtered in when you're looking for an expensive pitcher combo, like trying to spend, $18,000, $19,000 on your pitcher spots on DK. All right, let's go to the Oakland Kansas City game. Couple more pitchers that are with some tough prices here, at least on DraftKings right now. Homer Bailey is at 9,100. Brad Keller, 8,800. 5.5 total on Alex's implied totals here for Oakland. 4.3 for KC. Weather issues, it looks like about a 50-50 chance we're going to see some rain here in KC. So this is going to be the one you're going to want to keep your eye on. But assuming this one goes, talk about pitching here if you have anything to talk about. I mean, can you make a case for either of these guys on DK?
It's tough. The case for Bailey is that the matchup's nice once you get past the top 4 in the order, but he's 9,100. It's really tough to pay that salary for someone that, while he's been decent this year, he's struck out 20.9% of hitters. That's basically the same as Joe Musgrove, who's $3,100 less expensive. Bailey's Sierra is higher than Musgrove's. His xFIP's about the same. So it just gets really, really difficult to find the salary there. And then for Brad Keller, 17.3% strikeout percentage. is, I believe, the lowest on the slate, and it's not a good strikeout matchup against Oakland. So really difficult to get the pitching.
Yeah, agreed. Over on Yahoo, $39 for Bailey. That's a little bit easier to stomach. 36 for Keller. I think I'd rather go Bailey over there if the weather clears up. But hitting here, we've got the Athletics with a pretty high implied total. I think this is the highest total. The Yankees have a little bit higher of a total on Alex's, but on a slate with low totals, 5.5 is about as good as you're going to do against Keller. He's not a guy who gives up a ton of power. Looking at the ownership right now, let's see. Oakland not popping up at the top, at least. A couple of guys in double digits. Chapman I'm seeing. But actually KC looks like they're getting a lot of steam on DraftKings. Do you like either side here for stacks?
I don't love it. Kansas City's the same thing as the Reds. It's not a really high probability spot, but they are really, really cheap. So you can pretty easily stack Kansas City and then do whatever else you want with your lineup. They're a team where I expect my exposure to them to be heavily dependent on our final projected ownership because they do look like pretty good values. And as you said, there's no real high implied run totals on this slate. So the opportunity cost of getting to a team like Kansas City isn't as high as it is on most slates. But at the same time, they're still, outside of Merrifield, Soler, Dozier, and Gordon, they're still a collection of some of the worst hitters in baseball. So if everyone is, or a large percentage of the field is saying, oh, I want $2,500 O'Hearn and $3,100 Cuthbert and $2,800 Valoria, then I'll just pass on that and go somewhere else. So a lot will depend on what I think the field's going to do.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime there's these cheap teams that are getting ownership just because of their pricing, and you see why with Sonny Gray on the slate being the best option. I look to go elsewhere, at least for full stacks. So I'm going to be under on KC as a full stack, I'm sure. Just wanted to check quick. Homer Bailey has allowed 4 stolen bases this season. So it's not like it's a great stolen base spot for any of these guys at the top for KC. 4 stolen bases allowed, 3 caught stealings, pickoff. That's actually pretty impressive. I thought he was bad at first, so maybe that was why you're seeing a bunch of ownership on Merrifield and these guys, but actually not that bad, at least this season. All right. I like Matt Olson a lot at 4,700. Batting cleanup against Keller. I think that's a guy who you might get in on the cheat sheets. And then Chris Davis is still 3,300. So I'm guessing we're still playing him, right?
Yep. I think that this game does have two. I agree with you on Olsen just being a good play, but I think this game also has 2 of the better values with O'Hearn at 2,500 and Davis at 3,300.
Yeah, for sure. O'Hearn, another hero of yesterday that banked it for Giant Squid. So Still down at 2,500. He's just going up there to try to hit home runs and going up against a guy with a below average K rate. Not too bad of a spot. All right, let's go to Arizona and San Francisco. Just a few games left here. Alex Young going up against Tyler Beede. We thought it might be Derek Rodriguez yesterday. Looks like there is a total out now. 4.6 implied runs going to Arizona. Alex has him at 4.9, and then 4.6 for San Francisco. Young, 7,500 going into San Francisco. Can you make a case for it? This was a guy that Randone was saying that he liked a little bit. Or would it just be a park thing? Do you think Young is any good here?
I don't think I've ever seen Randone be wrong on like a really weird pick. So I'm not going to argue against it. And no, I mean, I think it's fine. He's not the best pitcher, but he is pitching in San Francisco. It's a nice spot for run prevention, which normally I don't weight all that much because it's really difficult to predict on a start-to-start basis. Strikeouts are the easier thing to predict, and it's not a great strikeout spot, but there's not many of those on this slate. So I think that Young is a viable option, especially if he's going to get a lot less ownership than Pablo Lopez. Right now we have on DraftKings Lopez at 21%, Alex Young at 5%. I don't think that they're all that different. So if that holds, I could see getting into some more Young.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, looking at the projections right now, we've got Lopez being a solid value and actually one of the better on the slate, but ownership obviously matters. Not a favorable projection here for Alex Young, but just as a pure pivot, I think that Young's a fine play, and you make a good point about Randone not being wrong too often. I mean, he's called the Vargas smash, and he wasn't even on Vargas today. So maybe Alex Young is today's Jason Vargas.
Yeah. And to clarify what I said about him not being that different from Lopez, like he's different from Lopez. Lopez is very clearly better.
For sure.
I just don't know that he's 4 times better.
Right, exactly. Man, Lopez actually has a really good projection, as does Tyler Beede, but Beede is getting a ton of ownership right now. On this slate, he is over 30%. I don't imagine that comes down too much by time we get to lock. He's $5,100 going up against a team with a below 5 implied total in arguably the best pitching park in the entire MLB. He's not very good, but do you see yourself getting overweight on Tyler Beede?
I think it's fine just because he's so cheap pitching in San Francisco. But right now, I would say that out of the stacks that are probably going to go completely overlooked, Arizona might be my favorite. Beatty's not great, especially against lefties, and he's going to have to deal with Dyson, Marte, Escobar, Lamb, Rojas, probably 5 in the top 6. The park is obviously the big concern here, but like I was saying when we talked about Kansas City, there's just not as much opportunity cost on this slate as there is on most, and it means that there's a higher likelihood than normal that one of the teams in this game can come through as a top stack. So I think that Arizona is actually pretty interesting, especially if Beatty's getting ownership.
Yeah, and they're going to go pretty overlooked, at least the guys at the top of this lineup, because it's a tough park. I mean, Rojas at 2,400, I'm sure, is going to get some ownership just because he's 2,400 batting 6th. So you can easily get some leverage here. But actually, yeah, one of the better implied totals here for Arizona on this slate. Alex has him almost at 5. I have no clue what I'm going to end up doing on Beede. Like, it is a really favorable projection. Maybe it comes down just a bit, but using the projections on the site right now, I would have to imagine I get to a ton of him in like gray combos, maybe some Dustin May as well, and just mix and match him with everyone as my SP2. So not looking forward to Tyler Beede chalk day and playing a ton of Tyler Beede, but I think at this point that's probably where I'm going to be. Any hitters against Young on the Giants here?
Yeah, and going back to Beede, this is just one of those slates where there are good point per dollar projected pitchers, and Beede's one of them, but they're just not great pitchers and they're not in great spots. So the range of outcomes is still really, really wide on these guys, and the floor is basically non-existent. So you're going to get a lot of ownership going there, and deservedly so, because they are the best point per dollar plays. It's just that they very, very easily can still suck. They're just the best options of what we have. As far as Giants bats, Posey I think is a good value. Obviously, you're not getting a lot of power there, but he's a cheap catcher. Longoria is a decent play, but I definitely prefer the Diamondback side to the Giants side.
Yeah, I mean, Posey, he's a guy I always get to that I don't like getting to just because he's got virtually no power, or at least a lot less power than he has had in past years. And then Longoria can hit lefties, I suppose, at 42. But I don't think if Young's not getting any ownership and playing hitters in this park, you've got some really weird pricing on San Francisco with Yastrzemski at 5,100, Dickerson at 53, lefty in San Francisco. I don't think I need to pay up to be contrarian at those spots. I think there are better spots to do so. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here what happens as far as ownership, see how that shakes out. Let's go to the Yankees and the Seattle Mariners. We have a 5.7 implied total for the Yankees, 4.5 here for Seattle. J.A. Happ going up against, we believe it's going to be Tommy Malone in the long relief outing. It's going to be Whistler to start. Happ at 7,100, going to be a pretty popular option right now. He's just below Beede at about 30% ownership on DraftKings. Is this one you're looking to go against the field on?
I think that I probably come in around where the field is on Happ. He's a perfectly viable option at this price tag, and there are strikeouts in the Seattle lineup, but he just hasn't been getting strikeouts this year. He has a 19% strikeout percentage. He's looking a lot more like the pitcher that he was for most of his career compared to the pitcher that he was for the last couple of seasons. So it's pretty scary, and I don't love it, but I also don't, in that price range, while I like Pablo Lopez, I don't need, 50% Pablo Lopez or something like that. So getting some of that to Hap, I think, is appealing.
And then on the other side, Malone, 7,400 in long relief. I mean, he's a pretty sizable underdog here. I don't think I can get to him against the Yankees. I'm rarely looking to get anyone against the Yankees, but not a guy with an average K rate and that gives up a bunch of power. So I'm looking at Yankees bats quite a bit. They're probably right now a top 2 or 3 stack for me pretty easily. You like the Yankees bats here?
Yeah, I agree with you. Malone has the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate. He's been good this year. As a starter, he has a 27.3% strikeout percentage, 3.91 Sierra. But overall this year, his strikeouts are really heavily increased by left-handed bats. 19.9% strikeouts to righties, 27.8 to lefties. And you're going to get a lot of righties, especially towards the top of this order. So, yeah, I think the Judge's price tag's too cheap. There's only one hitter on the Yankees on DraftKings over 5K, and that's Torres, who obviously deserves his price point with as much power as he has. So it's a pretty affordable stat given how good they are. The only negative, I guess, is that it's like 70 degrees in Seattle, so it's not the best hitting spot.
Yeah. But, I mean, none of the good teams are in good hitting spots tonight.
This is a really weird slate. Like, all the pitching sucks and all the hitting sucks.
Yeah. It's just like lowest implied totals I've seen, and then like bad pitching all around. It's not like we got Scherzer, Kershaw, all these guys pitching, and you get why it's low totals. It's just kind of bad on both sides. So it's going to make it tough, but should make for a good night to hopefully get contrarian.
Yep.
Any one-off bats, or are you looking at stacks against Hap here?
I think one-offs are probably the way to go. He's not the worst pitcher. The Mariners aren't great, but he has allowed 2.16 home runs per 9. So I think that if Tom Murphy's behind the plate, he's a really strong catcher option. Kyle Seager has power against lefties, and Hap, I'm pulling up his numbers now, but going from memory, he's always kind of had issues with left-handed power. So maybe a sneaky spot to go lefty-lefty with Seager.
I was just going to say, there's so many lefties in this projected lineup right now. I'm looking at Smith, Crawford, Seager, Narvaez, Vogelbach, Fraley, and Gordon. So possibly 7 lefties Hap could face here.
So I was wrong. He hasn't given up power to lefties in years. 138 this year, like 122 since the start of last year, ISOs. 123 since the start of 2017. So not a great power spot for the left-handed bats. Murphy is my favorite play, though, if he's in the lineup.
Fair enough. Man, Hap, I thought I would see a higher number for, I know he hasn't had a good season, but against lefties, his K percentage is under 19%, so actually striking out more righties this season. Just really not been the same pitcher we saw for a couple years there with Toronto. So, yeah, I wonder how chalky he's actually going to be. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he ends up as the chalkiest pitcher, especially once we see a Seattle lineup. Like if it comes out an hour and a half before lock, that might just, with a bunch of lefties, a bunch of people might just flock there. So I don't know. I'm not crazy about Hap. I think I'm more likely to get way overweight on a guy like Tyler Beede tonight, just so I can get a bunch of Sonny Gray as well.
Yep.
All right. Before we go to the last game, want to talk quick about our celebrity fantasy football draft we've got going on tonight. So this is the tweet. I think I posted this in the YouTube chat. I'm going to post it quick again so you guys can check out the information here. Bunch of familiar names: Osmo, Chris Spags, Jazz Raz, Ben Raza, and then a bunch of other people from around the industry. So this draft is going on tonight at 7 Eastern, so you're going to want to check that out. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So this is kind of the first thing we've done like this. We're pretty excited for football. Osmo has his season-long rankings. I'm guessing he's going to update those for Andrew Luck retiring. By the way, that was a super weird thing that happened. I don't know if you were on Twitter on Saturday night, but just out of nowhere. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And, I mean, good for him. Like, it obviously sucks if you're a Colts fan. It sucks if you're a football fan. But good for him, like, just walking away. Like, if he's not – like, the guy's been rehabbing for, like, 3 years, it feels like. You know, if that's like affecting his quality of life, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. Good for him for just walking away from it.
Yeah, and he's obviously a really smart guy. I mean, he's looking down the road too. So people being upset, I mean, whatever, Colts fans booing, it's like this guy did a lot for your franchise. When a lot of franchise after they lose Peyton Manning, they don't get an Andrew Luck afterwards.
Right.
So they had a pretty good stretch there of having a top 5 QB easily for 20 plus years.
Yeah, to me, the more interesting thing is just like it's another young guy just walking away from football in his prime now and being like, "Yep, no, I'm good."
Yeah, we're gonna see even more rules probably to cater towards quarterbacks. If you start getting a couple of these guys saying, "Nah, I'm good," after their first couple contracts. So, anyways, I'm sure there will be some Andrew Luck discussion if you guys aren't worn out by that. But yeah, these guys will be doing a fantasy football draft. It'll be a pretty cool show. Go check that out tonight. And yeah, I think that's all we have to promote today that I'm forcing on you guys. So let's go to the last game on the night. We've got the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. 5.2 implied total here for the Dodgers, 4.2 for the Padres. Dustin May, 5% owned Dustin May right now. $8,500 going into San Diego. Is that something you have interest in?
Yeah, that's really weird to me that he's 5% owned. I expect that will increase as the day goes on, but he's not a great strikeout pitcher right now. He's a good, really, really good ground ball pitcher. He has the stuff to be a good strikeout pitcher. He's just young and not a finished product yet. But looking at him at 8,500 on DraftKings, and he's only at 35 on Yahoo too, he's not overpriced really, whereas some other guys are. Like Adam Wainwright should not be $1,100 more than May. Bailey should not be more than May. It's a good strikeout spot against San Diego. I think that maybe like Lopez is a better value, but I don't think it's by a huge margin. And I would like to try and find the money for May over someone like Happ. So I expect that if he does stay around 5%, I end up pretty easily over the field on him.
I would think so too. Josh just said in Slack that he thinks the May ownership's wrong. Yeah, no way. 3% on FanDuel right now at 6,200 is impossible. Yeah. He says, I can imagine him saying that as his computer. Yeah, that's probably wrong. But even if he's like 20%, I think he's gonna be a guy that I get to a ton. On the projections right now, let's see where May's at. He actually doesn't project very well at all for us, at least on a value metric. But 8,500 going up against a bunch of righties. Padres strike out a bunch versus righties. Pitcher spot as well. Hard to imagine that he's not one of the, like he doesn't at least find himself in the mid-teens in ownership, at least on the two pitcher sites. And then on FanDuel at that price, 6,200, a candidate for a quality start here. I think everybody's going to go there as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, he's going to be really ownership projection dependent for me because on one hand, if everyone wants to roster the 21-year-old who probably doesn't have a long leash and doesn't have great strikeout stuff at $8,500, then I can get away from it and hope that if he does have a good game, it's just like 18 or 19 points or something. But if people aren't going to roster him, then I'll take one of the more talented pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, for sure. No, you make a good point about that, about ownership with the guy who's not a massive strikeout pitcher. He's a guy that I think relies a ton on ground ball percentage. Erik Lauer, 6,700. Can you stomach that against the Dodgers here? Or would it just be a pure pivot playoff like a Beatty? And even he's $1,600 more expensive than Beatty, so it's not even that much of a pivot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue for me. I think Lauer is a pretty average pitcher, which is good on this slate, I guess, but it's still a really brutal matchup against the Dodgers. The Dodgers aren't as scary against left-handed pitching since so many of their good hitters are left-handed, and you replace guys like Jock Peterson with guys like, Jed Jerko or Kike Hernandez or something, but still a tough matchup overall. Not a great strikeout pitcher. If he were down around 6K, I think he'd be an interesting pivot, but it's just tough to get to him over when you're paying more money for him than guys like Musgrove or Beatty.
Yeah, I expected the Dodgers, when I sort by team versus lefty, the active roster, I expected the Dodgers to have one of the best WRC pluses. They're at 100 flat right now, 15th in the MLB, 23% K rate versus lefties, I thought they would be, up, not where the Astros are at or where the Twins are at, but I thought they'd be easily in the top 10 with a over 100 WRC plus. So maybe not as good versus lefties as I thought. Certainly some strikeouts in here for Lauer, and I could see why people would get to him. Man, he's not owned at all right now. If he's 3%, I'm going to be over that for sure. But even if he comes up to like 8-10%, I'm probably still going to have a decent amount of Erik Lauer, just because if he's a pitcher in this range with Musgrove and somewhat close to Beatty, he makes sense to go to as a mass multi-entry play. What about the Dodgers bats here? 5.2 implied total versus Lauer. Is he a guy you like to target against? It's tough because there's no ownership on him right now.
Right, yeah. Like, I think Pollock's a really good value play. I think Turner's a good play, but the Dodgers are getting ownership too. So, it's not like I'm opposed to rostering the Dodgers, but if this is just a slate where with all these offenses with low implied run totals, I really just want the ones that aren't popular.
Mm-hmm. I want to see the ownerships on Muncy and Bellinger.
Yeah.
I would have to imagine those guys are going to be pretty low. Let's do a quick
Right now on DraftKings, we have Bellinger as the highest owned Dodger at 18%.
Whoa.
And we have Muncy at 10%.
Okay, yeah. So I was wrong. I talked about the Dodgers being like a decent leverage stack. So I was wrong on a couple fronts. At least right now, Lauer not getting ownership. And then I thought the Dodgers, especially Muncy and Bellinger, who I like against lefties, I thought they would be super cheap. But I guess if people aren't going to Gray, and right now like 35% of we have projected 35% of people going to Gray. In the non-Gray lineups, you're just going to be able to afford a $5,700 outfielder and a $5,300 good hitter who's got dual position eligibility. So I guess that makes sense. But wow, I did not expect to see even double-digit ownership for either guy. And right now they both have it on DraftKings. Yahoo pricing, Dodgers are expensive over there. Will Smith up to $27 on Yahoo. Is that a cash option for you?
No.
Yeah, completely kidding. I think if you are looking for a cash option, maybe Pollock at 18. Yeah. Turner probably in the conversation at $19, but not a lot I'm seeing on any site outside of Manny Machado on Yahoo is just $11. So do with that what you will. All right. Went through all 7 games. Feel free to give us a like if you guys did enjoy this show. Right now we've got 56. I think we can get to, around 100 by the time we log out of here. What do you got going on for the rest of the day, Adam?
I will be enjoying my afternoon while Lofty writes the deep dive. And then I'll be back for the deeper dive at 5 with Alex and Lofty.
Yeah, it must have been a pretty fun week for you, just firing up 6 deeper dives in a row.
It's really not bad. I don't know how you are, but like I know back when I worked in like restaurants and stuff, it was if I was working every single day, it didn't bother me because like it was just like routine. But it's when like I would have like 3 days off and then have like a double or something, I would hate it. So I don't know. It really didn't bother me too much because I was just busy all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice when you're busy all the time, but you're also staring at your computer screen. It's a little bit different. You're not walking around. You're not outside. So, man, 6 deeper dives plus the 2 shows a day on some days. Early bird, you were all over the place giving all your takes. So we will have Lofty back.
Such a bad DFS week.
Yeah, that's
sorry, guys.
Yeah, maybe that's why I've been struggling too. I've been on the screen too much. You guys have been seeing too much of my face. Let's see. We've got the deep dive, as you mentioned, by Lofty. Lofty will be back on the deeper dive today with you and Alex. That will be a really fun trio. Again, make sure to check out that draft tonight, 7 Eastern. I've got my fantasy draft, my big league on Thursday, so I'm going to be looking at those rankings in the coming days. Hopefully we can get an update with Andrew Luck and Lamar Miller. I think he tore his ACL, so he's out. So a lot of stuff going on. Make sure to check out the cheat sheets, spotlight pitchers, hitters, get your Yahoo Sports rewards points. We love Yahoo. Get in that management fee free contest for NFL. Just get in it right now so you're entered in and start building that bankroll on Yahoo. Emax Spotlight Hitters is how you get more information about the Yahoo Sports rewards points. All right. Anything else before we head out here?
I think that's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Feel free to hit us with a like on the way out, and we will be back later today.